Okay, think about this for a second. Baby clothes. Seems simple, right? Tiny little garments. But have you ever really stopped to think about the sheer scale of the industry behind them?
Globally, it's massive, way more than just cute onesies. So today we're doing a deep dive into the global baby apparel market. Our mission really is to unpack what's driving its incredible growth, and we want to understand the regional differences and maybe uncover some trends you wouldn't expect. And when I say incredible growth, I mean it. The market jumped from around what, $56 billion in 2021, and it's projected to hit almost $116 billion by 2033. That's a compound annual growth rate CAGR of 6.2% over a decade. So the big question is, how do these tiny clothes tell such a huge story about global money, culture, even technology? All right, let's unpack this.
What's fascinating here, I think, isn't just the amount of clothing. It's what these numbers actually mean. They really show a, well, profound shift in how people consume things globally.
Yeah.
You see this basic need dressing a baby intersecting with huge economic changes and shifting social priorities. It's happening on a scale that just transforms markets. It really speaks volumes about growing wealth and, changing family values around the world.
It really is a huge scale. That projection to 2033, nearly $116 billion. It's just staggering. But what's actually pushing those numbers up? Here's where it gets really interesting.
Indeed. And globally, the main drivers are pretty consistent, but how they play out varies a lot by region. Demographics are huge, obviously population changes, but also this trend called premiumization. Plus, there's much more awareness now about baby health, comfort, and of course the massive impact of e-commerce. It's everywhere. And just to add to that profound shift idea, think about it like this. A huge new global middle class is emerging. They don't just have more money to spend, they specifically want dedicated baby products.
Yeah.
For ages, hand-me-downs were the standard, right? Now we're seeing this explosion in people buying brand new, purpose-made, often branded baby clothes for the first time. That's a massive leap in consumer behavior for millions. It's not just more babies, it's more spending per baby and a change in how parents spend.
That makes total sense. So let's dig into that premiumization idea a bit more. What does premium actually mean for baby clothes? Is it just a higher price?
Good question. No, it's not just about price tags. Premiumization here means parents are looking for specific added value. Think organic cotton, maybe hypoallergenic materials for sensitive skin, clothes made sustainably, even designer names. Parents are essentially investing in safety, ethics, maybe a bit of status too. It really reflects their own values. They see baby clothes as part of providing the best, or it aligns with their lifestyle, like being eco-conscious.
Right, that's a key distinction. So where are these factors causing the biggest boom? Which regions?
Well, if you're looking for sheer scale and just, well, rapid change, you have to look at the Asia-Pacific region. It's an absolute powerhouse in the baby apparel market. Revenues there went from about $20.7 billion in 2021, and they're projected to hit nearly $45 billion by 2033. That's huge.
Wow, $45 billion. That's incredible growth. What's fueling that specifically in Asia Pacific?
The main things are pretty clear. Huge populations that are still growing, really fast urbanization, and parents just being much more aware about infant care, products, things like that. Within the region, China is still the giant, expected to be over $14 billion by 2033. But India, that's where you see really dramatic transformation. Its market is set to almost triple, a 7.4% growth rate, heading towards $6.5 billion. Then you've got strong markets like Japan, South Korea, and Southeast Asian countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia. They're all growing fast, too. It just shows what happens when you have those large populations meeting rising incomes. It's a powerful mix.
Okay, so Asia Pacific really highlights growth driven by volume and developing economies. But what about places where birth rates might be flatter, but the market's still growing strongly, like North America?
Exactly. And that's where the story changes a bit. The drivers are different from APAC's volume game. North America is still expected to nearly double its market size, from around $13.7 billion to $27 billion by 2033. The U.S. is the biggest piece of that pie, mainly because of its large consumer base and, well, all the established brands.
And does that premium purchasing behavior we talked about really come into play there?
Absolutely. That phrase is critical for understanding North America. It means that even if birth rates aren't soaring, parents are often choosing higher quality, safer options, things like organic fabrics. Canada is a great example. Its growth potential is linked specifically to this demand for organic and high-quality stuff. So it's less about just needing clothes and more about making a choice that reflects maybe health concerns or lifestyle. It's moving from just necessity towards identity almost.
Fascinating. Okay, let's cross the Atlantic now to Europe. Seems like consumer preferences there add another interesting layer. That market's also growing significantly from about $11.4 billion to over $22.8 billion projected.
Right, and this raises an important question. Just how much do consumer values shape the market? In Europe, you see a very clear link between environmental awareness and what people buy. The demand for sustainable materials, hypoallergenic fabrics, it's not just a small niche anymore. It's actually driving growth. Germany, for instance, projected over $5.4 billion, helped a lot by strong online sales and shoppers being very eco-conscious. And, maybe surprisingly, Luxembourg actually has the highest growth rate in Europe at 8.8%. Shows how focused demand can create big growth, even in smaller places.
It really is amazing how different values shape these markets. Okay, from Europe, let's look at the Middle East. You mentioned rapid expansion there, and this mix of traditional and modern. The forecast is from $4.1 billion up to over $9.1 billion by 2033. Quite a jump.
Yes, and the idea of luxury baby clothing is really prominent in the Middle East. It's often not just about function. It's tied to status, family celebrations, expressing affluence. The UAE, for example, is set to nearly double its market. That really reflects the demand for high-end baby items. And you also mentioned the adoption of Western-style parenting norms. What that often means is a shift towards more specialized baby gear. So parents might start looking for specific things like sleep sacks or, purpose-built outdoor wear, mirroring trends from Europe or North America. They're moving beyond maybe more traditional all-purpose garments because they're more aware of specialized infant care needs. It's this interesting mix of culture and global trends.
That's a great point about how cultural shifts affect what people buy. Okay, finally, let's touch on South America and Africa, regions we maybe don't hear about as much in this context, but you said they have emerging potential.
Absolutely. South America is projected to grow to nearly $8.8 billion by 2033. Brazil is the giant there, expected to account for over $3.3 billion itself. And what's driving it? Well, urbanization is a factor, but also better access. People can now buy international brands online much more easily in places like Argentina, Colombia, Chile.
Makes sense. And Africa. What's the outlook for baby clothes there?
Africa's market is smaller currently, but it's set for pretty solid growth too, from $1.8 billion to over $3.2 billion by 2033. Nigeria is leading the way, expected to top $1.15 billion. That's fueled by a really high birth rate and a very young population. South Africa is significant too. And really what ties these emerging regions together, South America and Africa, is the impact of, well, two things. Growing consumer bases, obviously, but also the reach of e-commerce. Online platforms are opening up access. Consumers who couldn't easily get these brands before now can. Whether it's luxury, organic, or just affordable quality gear, it's becoming available.
So what does this all mean? We've gone from tiny clothes to a global market worth, well, potentially over $115 billion. It's clear this isn't just a simple market. It's incredibly dynamic, much more complex than you might first think.
Absolutely. If we boil it down, the big drivers are universal, really. Demographics that push towards premiumization in different ways, much more awareness about health and comfort for babies, and underpinning it all, the massive influence of e-commerce. But there is that key difference we saw. Mature economies, they tend to focus more on premium, organic, those value-driven choices, whereas the developing regions, they're driving growth through sheer volume, affordability, and just more people entering the market as incomes rise.
Right, so a lot for you, the listener, to think about there.
Definitely. And maybe consider the deeper implications. How will all these things, population shifts, changing cultural values, technology like e-commerce, keep reshaping what parents buy for their kids? And, perhaps more provocatively, what kind of unexpected innovations could pop up? Think about smart textiles for babies, or maybe truly biodegradable options becoming mainstream. It's a space worth watching. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're digging into something maybe you haven't thought too much about, the baby apparel market. Our sources show some really surprising dynamics here. So we're going to explore what's actually driving this industry, its biggest hurdles, and maybe some truly innovative trends on the horizon.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it, how these markets that seem so simple, just tiny outfits, are actually shaped by really complex stuff.
Like what specifically?
Well, everything from shifting parental values to some pretty cutting-edge technology. So this deep dive should give you a good shortcut to understanding what makes this particular industry tick.
Okay, so let's jump in. First off, our sources point to some pretty strong global growth in baby clothes. What's the main thing behind that?
It seems to be this trend people are calling premiumization. Basically, parents aren't just buying clothes anymore.
Right.
They're investing. They want higher quality, often branded stuff. Think organic cotton, hypoallergenic materials, sustainable fabrics. It's all tied into this growing health awareness.
And social media probably plays a role there, too.
Oh, hugely. Social media, influencers, even celebrity endorsements, they all amplify this desire for, stylish branded outfits. It makes parents feel more comfortable paying more for things they see as safe and, well, fashionable.
And how does online shopping fit into that premium trend? I imagine e-commerce makes it way easier for busy parents.
Absolutely. The convenience factor of e-commerce is massive here. Online stores have these curated selections, really detailed size charts, sometimes even virtual try-on tools.
Virtual trials for babies, wow.
Yeah. Plus, you get hassle-free returns, and now these monthly clothing subscription boxes are popping up too. It all just makes discovering and buying brands so much easier, expands the market reach.
And we shouldn't forget gifting, right? That must be a constant driver.
Definitely. Cultural traditions like baby showers, birthdays, holidays, they create this steady demand, often for those premium gift sets or special occasion outfits you mentioned. It gives the industry these predictable revenue spikes.
Makes sense. Okay, so that's the growth side. But you mentioned complexities.
Yeah.
What are the big challenges or restraints in this market?
Right. Well, every market has its quirks. For baby apparel, the absolute core challenge is what we call the short usage cycle.
Meaning they just grow so fast.
Exactly. Babies outgrow clothes incredibly quickly, sometimes in weeks. Think about a onesie maybe worn just a handful of times.
Yeah.
This really limits repeat purchases of the same item, and it often pushes parents to, buy a size up, hoping to get more use out of it, which kind of impacts immediate sales volume.
I can totally see that being a huge factor. What else? Are there regulatory hurdles, maybe?
Oh, for sure. There's a pretty significant burden from stringent safety regulations. You've got high standards for things like flame resistance, avoiding choking hazards from buttons or snaps, chemical safety.
Lots to consider.
It really is.
Hmm.
And all that means increased testing costs for manufacturers. It genuinely creates barriers, especially if you're a smaller brand trying to break in. And that ties into another issue. The market's really sensitive to seasons and sizes. Forecasting demand across all those different sizes and for different seasons, it's incredibly tricky.
So you end up with leftover stock.
Often, yes, which leads to heavy discounting on unsold seasonal items,
Yeah.
and that, eats into profit margins.
Right. Okay, so challenges aside, let's look forward. What's emerging? What are the exciting new trends shaping the future here?
Well, one really big shift is towards sustainable and circular fashion models.
Ah, like eco-friendly materials.
Exactly. More eco-friendly fabrics, think bamboo, organic cotton, even plant-based dyes. But also, and this is really taking off, platforms for clothing rentals or buying secondhand baby clothes.
That makes so much sense given how quickly they grow out of them.
It really does. It aligns with parents wanting to be more environmentally conscious.
Yeah.
And it's cost-effective. It's a win-win.
That's great. What about tech? Is smart clothing really a thing for babies?
It is. It's starting to appear, especially in the premium end. We're seeing smart clothing technology like temperature regulating fabrics,
Oh, interesting.
wearable sensors built into clothes for health monitoring, maybe tracking breathing or temperature, and even antibacterial textiles. These are particularly helpful for babies with, say, special health needs or sensitivities.
Fascinating. And there's one more trend mentioned, inclusivity and adaptive design. What does that look like?
Yeah, this is really thoughtful stuff. Innovations like magnetic closures instead of fiddly snaps or side-opening designs. These make dressing easier for caregivers who might have limited mobility or for babies using medical devices.
That's incredibly practical.
It is. And there's also the rise of things like weighted sleepwear or other sensory-friendly clothes designed for neurodiverse children. It's all about expanding accessibility and just rethinking functionality in a more compassionate, practical way.
So wrapping it up then, the baby apparel market is definitely growing, pushed by that premium feel, online ease and gifting, but it's also getting smarter about sustainability.
Right. Even while it juggles those core challenges, the super short usage cycle, tough safety rules, and tricky forecasting.
A complex picture for tiny clothes.
It really is. And maybe a final thought for you to consider. As we see technology and these evolving values shape even simple items like baby clothes,
Yeah.
what might these specific innovations, the smart fabrics, the adaptive designs, hint about the future? What could they tell us about design trends and consumer expectations across all kinds of products down the line?